So there was this headline just this week, really cut through all the usual Hollywood noise.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
Emma Watson, Hermione Granger, grew up literally inside the biggest movie machine ever.
Right, Harry Potter. Huge.
Well, she gave this rare interview explaining exactly why she's stepped back from big commercial films.
Okay, interesting. And for you, that's not just like celebrity gossip.
No, exactly. It feels like a symptom, a
Hmm.
signal. When someone that big, that valuable to the studios walks away from the massive paychecks, it says something bigger is shifting.
Mm-hmm. About the whole culture and I guess the economics of entertainment.
Mhm.
Makes you wonder what actors really want now.
Precisely. So that's our deep dive today. We're going to unpack that pivot, look at what our sources say this means, for the actors, for us as the audience, maybe wanting more authenticity.
And for the big studios too, right?
Mm.
Are they facing a real talent drain?
Yeah. We're exploring those changing A-list values. What happens when maybe purpose starts winning out over the franchise dollar?
It's like a battle for the actor's soul in a way.
Okay, so let's start right there with the source of it all. Section 1, the Watson revelation. She didn't just fade out, she actually spoke about why, criticizing that commercial environment.
Yeah, she was pretty direct.
What were the specific reasons she gave for, well, leaving the machine?
The big one was feeling caged. Yeah, that was her word.
Caged? How so?
Not physically, obviously, but creatively.
Yeah.
She talked about how when you're the face of one of these massive, ongoing blockbuster things, there's just no room left, no space for real creativity or even personal growth within that system.
I can kind of imagine that. You're locked in, right? Multi-year contracts, the character's path is set, the PR narrative. Even your life feels dictated by this billion-dollar engine.
Totally. We must strip away any feeling of, ownership.
Yeah, takes away the chance to experiment, I guess.
It does. And she said her goal now is to completely redefine how she's involved. She's focusing on writing, directing, choosing projects that really align with her personal values, her ethics.
Not just playing what you call it, the franchise game.
Exactly. Trading that passive role for active creation.
Purpose over the peak paycheck.
Okay.
Okay. But is this just Emma Watson, one star having a moment? Or is she part of something bigger, a pattern?
Well, that's what's so interesting. Our sources show it is absolutely part of a growing pattern. It's been building maybe subtly for the last decade or so.
Right.
We've seen quite a few really high-profile stars step away, or at least, seriously redirect their careers right when they were at their commercial peak.
Okay, give us some examples of this peak departure thing, but maybe let's think about the nuance too. Is fully quitting, like Cameron Diaz did, the same as what Watson's doing, being more selective?
That's a really key distinction, yeah. There seem to be kind of two paths in this Hollywood exodus, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
Path one is the full retirement. Cameron Diaz is a prime example. She just stepped away completely, focused on family, her businesses outside the spotlight.
And Daniel Day-Lewis?
Maybe the ultimate example of that path, right? Yeah. He quit acting entirely. Said he'd simply explored enough as an actor.
Yeah.
Total artistic exhaustion with the whole thing.
Wow, that sounds very final. Closing the book.
It really does. But then there's the second path, which is more like Watson's approach, redirection.
Okay.
Think about Shia LaBeouf. He took those long, kind of weird breaks, right?
Yeah.
Shifted focus dramatically to performance art, indie theater.
Right, very different stuff.
Very different. Yeah. But the common thread, whether it's a full stop or a hard turn, seems to be this feeling, this realization that they're just creatively done with the demands, the obligations of the biggest commercial stage.
Feeling trapped.
Yeah, trapped by the pressure, the endless machine, sequels, money, franchise duties. It all just smothers their ability to actually make something they feel is meaningful.
Okay, so if they feel trapped inside, why is this trend kind of exploding now? This didn't seem quite as common, say, 20 years ago. Let's connect that internal pressure to what's happening outside. Market forces, audience demands. Section 3, Hollywood's shifting values. Why leave all that money on the table?
That's the big question, isn't it? And context is, well, everything here.
Hmm.
Today, you've got the rise of streaming platforms, plus these incredible independent studios. Think about the reputation groups like A24 have now.
Right, they have serious cachet.
Exactly. So actors suddenly have real, high-quality alternatives. They can experiment, do prestigious work, completely outside the sort of Marvel DC megacycle.
Ah, so if there are other ways to get fame and critical acclaim, the big studios don't have the same monopoly on talent anymore. Power shifts a bit.
Economically, yes,
Ah.
definitely. But there's also a cultural pressure building coming from the audience.
How so?
We're seeing this generational shift. Millennials, Gen Z especially, they seem to increasingly value things like ethical work, sustainability, purpose, not just empty spectacle. They want the content they watch to feel like it aligns with their values, you know.
So the actors themselves might just be reflecting the values of their audience, their most engaged audience anyway.
Should be.
This brings us to a term the sources use that sounds kind of complex, the moral economy in Hollywood. Can you break that down for us? What does that actually look like?
Sure. So the idea of moral economy here is that talent, the actors, start choosing projects based not just on fame or the paycheck, the traditional economy, but on the moral meaning or the purpose behind the work.
Okay, give me an example.
Right. So an actor operating in this moral economy might turn down a huge paycheck for a film if it means, say, promoting a product they don't believe in or if they feel the story pushes like outdated stereotypes, even if the role would be massive exposure.
I see. So they're consciously trading maybe peak earnings for satisfaction, a sense of doing good work.
Yeah, it's a purposeful calculation. And that churn in priorities, that's maybe the single biggest threat to the old blockbuster model.
Because it changes what the actor's time is worth.
Exactly. It fundamentally revalues their time and, maybe more importantly, their reputation. In this moral economy, your reputation for doing meaningful work might actually be worth more than your net worth.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting then. Let's move to the hot take section, section 4. The hypothesis our sources are putting forward about the future. The talent drain.
Right.
If all the big respected stars start prioritizing purpose, what happens to the giant blockbuster studios, the ones that kind of rely on star power to sell the spectacle?
Well, the analysis suggests this trend of the ethical actor, as we're calling them, is likely to keep growing. They'll keep choosing smaller, maybe more value-driven projects, which means you could see a real measurable talent drain from the big studios. They'll still have the billions for marketing, for CGI, sure, but they might actually struggle to attract the hearts of the actors, the commitment you need for genuinely human drama.
That feels like a huge vulnerability. Money buys effects, but maybe it can't buy that committed authenticity from an A-lister anymore.
Possibly.
And this leads straight into a really fascinating paradox involving technology, doesn't it? AI and all that.
It really does. The paradox is sort of this. As human actors focus more on authenticity, on these demanding, value-driven roles, the gap they leave behind in the huge, visually driven blockbusters, that gap could ironically get filled by AI and digital doubles.
Wait, unpack that. Why would AI work for blockbusters but not for the kind of selective, meaningful project Watson seems to want to do now?
Well, think about what blockbusters increasingly are. They're about visual spectacle, massive amounts of data, known IP, like using a digital double of a famous actor for a crazy action sequence, or creating synthetic backgrounds. AI is getting really good at generating and manipulating that kind of visual data.
Okay.
But the second you need to convey really nuanced, deep, authentic human emotion, genuine moral conflict, vulnerability, connection, that's where the current limits of AI are really obvious.
So the market might split.
It seems like it's bifurcating, yeah. Spectacle goes synthetic, maybe, and drama becomes hyper-authentic, highly selective, very human.
So Emma Watson stepping back isn't just a personal choice. It's genuinely a sign of this larger cultural pivot. It confirms that human acting talent might be heading down two different tracks.
Pretty much. You've got the sort of digital spectacle performer, maybe increasingly replaced or augmented by AI.
And then the deeply human, ethical actor.
Whose value comes specifically from their irreplaceable human authenticity.
Wow.
And if you look around, you can already see stars who've navigated this kind of transition. From big franchise work to more selective, meaningful stuff, there's a blueprint.
Right. Let's look at that blueprint. Section 5. Stars who reinvented themselves. Because it's important for you listening to see the shift doesn't mean fading away. It means becoming selective and often actually more respected critically.
The classic modern example everyone talks about is the McConaughey, right? Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He made such a sharp, deliberate pivot, really aggressively moved away from being typecast in those, shirtless rom-com roles.
Right.
And started taking on these incredibly dramatic, gritty, dialogue-heavy parts. He totally reset his creative identity and gained a kind of credibility he just didn't have before.
He proved you can actively rebrand yourself, even when you're super famous, just by changing the kinds of choices you make. Who else fits that mold?
Robert Pattinson is maybe the perfect current example.
From Twilight.
Exactly. He went straight from the Twilight phenomenon into focusing almost exclusively on really difficult, auteur-driven art house films.
Like with Cronenberg, the Safdie brothers.
Yeah. Working with directors like that made him an art house king, basically.
Yeah.
Which, ironically, eventually gave him the prestige to tackle a huge role like Batman.
Yeah.
But it felt like it was on his terms, artistic merit, not just franchise duty.
That makes sense. And then you have someone like Zendaya who seems to have just mastered this balance we're talking about.
She walks that tightrope perfectly, doesn't she?
Ah.
She's carefully balancing the massive blockbusters Dune Spider-Man with really high prestige, deeply emotional, sometimes experimental stuff like Euphoria.
Yeah, Euphoria is definitely different.
Right. So she shows you can play both games, the franchise game and the values game, if you control the ratio. Make sure the prestige work always sort of legitimizes the commercial stuff.
And Emma Watson, moving from Harry Potter icon to wanting to write and direct, she's clearly putting herself on that same kind of path, championing selective, meaningful work.
Seems like it, following that blueprint.
Okay, so if this trend is real, if it's accelerating, what does it ultimately mean for the big Hollywood studios? Let's get into our final analysis, the long-term structure.
Well, it looks like the industry faces a pretty clear choice. Two paths, really.
Okay, what's path one?
Path one is the major studios have to adapt. They need to fundamentally change their production model if they want to keep attracting these A-listers who are now openly demanding creative space, demanding projects with real purpose.
They can't just throw money at the problem anymore.
Maybe not. Bigger paychecks might not be the only motivator or even the main one for some talent now.
And path two, if they don't adapt, if they resist this new ethical economy.
Then they'll likely accelerate the pivot we talked about earlier. They'll double down on the huge CGI-driven blockbusters, lean even harder on existing IP, nostalgia.
Relying less on unique human star power.
Yeah, maybe more on digital spectacle. Using AI, digital doubles more heavily to keep the volume up, even if it means accepting that their biggest movies might feel a bit emotionally thin.
This suggests a pretty big power shift then, not just about talent, but about who holds the cards structurally.
Absolutely. Think about the independent studios again, because they're the places where these meaningful, value-driven stories are actually allowed to thrive right now, without that immediate pressure for $1 billion opening weekend.
They gain power.
They could gain significant cultural power, yeah. Maybe even industrial power. They become the new gatekeepers of prestige, the places where the best human talent chooses to work.
And in the end, the success of this whole shift really comes down to the audience, to you listening right now.
That's the crucial part.
Yeah.
These changes in the industry, they'll only speed up if fans, if audiences, consistently reward the authenticity. If we start spending our time and money on the thoughtful indie projects, the ones featuring these ethical actors,
Then the pressure on the big studios to change becomes huge.
exactly, it becomes insurmountable.
So wrapping this up, Emma Watson isn't just leaving something behind. She's helping forge a new path, maybe. A path where actors put their values, their creativity, their authenticity first.
Ahead of the automatic franchise paycheck.
Following that blueprint set by others who kind of found their way out of the creative cage.
It's a really compelling story to watch unfold.
Yeah.
And it fundamentally changes how we even define success in Hollywood.
Yeah. Which leaves us with that final question, that thought for you to mull over.
Right. Are we really truly entering a new era? A sustainable era of the ethical Hollywood star, where choices are genuinely guided by purpose? Or will the old ways win out? Will the sheer historical pull of massive money, of that untouchable fame, will it eventually lure these actors back into the machine?
Only time, and maybe where you choose to put your attention, will tell which economy really dominates Hollywood's next decade.